Hello and welcome to my newest crapshoot video. It's either the second or third one, depending on how you want to look at it. The barber felt compelled to point that out. I'll just say that The Legend of Boggy Creek 2, that horror sequel, is actually the third film in the Boggy Creek franchise. Not the second, as the name would imply, but they called it 2 anyway because Charles B. Pierce discounted the second film. So 2, 3, it doesn't really matter, I don't think, all that much. Let's get to the questions. I'm using two computers here for the light, so it's kind of difficult. Alright, W asks, well, since Hagson didn't answer me yet, I'll ask you, where's my knife? Well, your knife is probably buried in the back or neck of some blonde chick who needed to stay the night at your place. That's where I check. If you already put her into a car and then ran it into the swamp, you may just have to buy a new knife. I don't know what to tell you there. Jason, I don't really know. He usually just kind of finds. You're going to find a lot of machetes in the woods, I think, especially the Crystal Lake area. Not really a problem for him, but yeah, you should always have more than one knife. But if you need to find it, that's probably where it is. Azamoff asks, why did you name yourself after the first video game console that utilized interchangeable cartridges? Well, I like the sound of it. It sounds cool. Channel F. It's kind of a geek test. Anybody that sees that and puts two and two together, I think Brainerd J did that when I asked him a question for his crapshoot, or someone did. They said Channel F, like the game console. You're one of my own then. If you're able to do that. Have I actually played that console? No, I haven't. That was a little bit before my time. I would like to play an actual unit sometime, but I've never seen one for sale, unfortunately. Why was it called the Channel F anyway? Well, it was made by the Fairchild Company. Channel Fairchild, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why they named themselves Fairchild. That was quite a few years before the Gen 13 babe Fairchild, with her awesome image breasts, would have been created. So I don't really know the answer to that. What is my favorite console? Well, my favorite console of all time. That's a very difficult question. I guess if I could only take one console with me to play, and assuming it would never break, maybe the SNES. So many great RPGs there and platformers, a couple fighting games too. Just a little bit of everything on that system, and a lot of nostalgia. FF2, FF3, Chrono Trigger, Earthbound. That might be my favorite. Although there are any number of lone games that are probably superior to anything on the SNES that I like, like Snatcher for the Sega CD. But I think if I had to take one system as a whole and look at its entire library, it might have to be the SNES. Again, I think PlayStation 3 that can play PS1, 2, and 3 games, I think that might kind of be cheating, so I don't want to say that. But that would give you a massive library also. My least favorite is probably the Sega CD. There are a handful of games on there that I adore. Snatcher is a criminally underplayed game in this country, partly because it's only ever had one release on the Sega CD, and nobody really bought that. The Sega CD for, the Lunar games debuted on the Sega CD. I think it's the Sega CD's reliance on full motion video games from Digital Pictures like Supreme Warrior and Sewer Shark and Make My Video and all that stuff. It really just kind of doomed the system to obscurity. Nobody really wanted to pick it up after that rather poor lineup of launch games and whatnot. So it had some just truly awesome, mind-blowing games on there that a lot of people haven't played, and a lot of people never will, largely due to the poor lineup it had initially and the reputation it got that it never really managed to overcome. And I think that's very sad. So most wasted potential probably the Sega CD. I mean, I have bought a 32X in my life, but that was mostly just for the lulz. Long after it had gone away and vanished, I just kind of wanted to check it out to see how bad it was. So I didn't buy that with the impression that it was going to be good. So I don't want to count the 32X. Have you ever dissected a game console? No, I haven't. My first PlayStation 3 broke once, and I thought about taking it apart and trying to put it back together using a YouTube instructional video, but I'm not very technically and mechanically inclined, so ultimately I did not attempt to do that. Do you still play on home consoles anymore? Yes, I do. I have a working SNES, Sega CD, 32X, Genesis, PS1, PS2, PS3, Xbox 360, PS4. They all work. I have a original Nintendo knockoff made by the good people of Yobo, Y-O-B-O. Nowadays they have those mega consoles that play NES, SNES, Genesis, and GBA games. I don't have that. Mine only plays NES cartridges. But I have many NES cartridges still. I play that pretty frequently. Mega Man 2 and G.I. Joe I've just enjoyed and played through to the conclusion very recently. I don't have G.I. Joe 2 though. I didn't really think that was that good. Are you still planning on buying home consoles in the future? Probably until we get to the point where they become online only and no longer sell games on disc. I'm an old school kind of player, and when those last vestiges of old schoolness go away and it's digital only, all that constant internet connection required, that'll probably be when I stop buying consoles. Do I think A Canticle for Leibowitz would make a good video game? That's a science fiction novel. Sure, why not? I mean, it's filled with horrible, hideous mutant freaks, and hideous mutant freaks make pretty good enemies in video games. So I think you could blast the hideous mutant freaks with a variety of post-apocalyptic weaponry, as either a monk or soldier living in that nuclear-ravaged world. I think you could do that, Making a video game on all three parts might be kind of difficult, but, different settings for different chapters of video games. It's been done before by Square. Live-A-Live, that was never brought over here. It was only released in Japan for the SNES, but I hear that's a pretty great game. I'd like to play that on an emulator sometime. What other science fiction do you like besides that and that Neuromancer thing? I have not read any of them yet, but I have quite a few books by Neil Stevenson. I'm looking forward to reading his stuff sometime soon. As Isaac Asimov, I haven't read a whole lot of his novels, but I have read a lot of his short stories. I like those. I'm a big Kurt Vonnegut fan. He writes, sometimes he writes more down-to-earth, comedic satire, but that doesn't have a lot of sci-fi elements. But Sirens of Titan and various other books are, outright sci-fi, even if you're never really going to find them on the sci-fi shelf, because of various, literary pretensions that people have and biases against sci-fi. But I like Kurt Vonnegut quite a bit. You can't go wrong with any of the books of his that I've read, but I have not read all of them, though. Adam Clark asked me, everyone keeps getting it wrong, Helena Bonham Carter or Sandra Bernhard? Helena Bonham Carter just doesn't do anything for me. Neither does Johnny Depp, and I know that's Depp and Carter are basically Tim Burton's, dream couple. He probably watches them bang as often as he can. She doesn't do anything for me though. So I'd have to go with Sandra. Who stole the keys to my Beamer? Probably the barber. He tends to, if something comes up stolen, he probably did it. Elder Scrolls or Fallout? I'm a big fan of both of these series. If I had to pick one for my first initial playthrough, what impresses me the most is probably Fallout. I think there's a bit more variety to the exploration and whatnot. The quasi-horror aspect I think works real well when you're walking around, the subway tunnels and whatnot and going into all the scary buildings. I like both of them quite a bit. A first playthrough, I probably enjoy Fallout more. On replaythroughs, when you're just messing around with, a character you make, and, probably Elder Scrolls then. I do love a good sword fight, and, I've Can't tell you the number of people I've beheaded in Skyrim. It would be very high. There's an achievement for that. I might be in the top 10% of beheadings. I'd actually like a mod where you always behead someone in Skyrim, but I haven't actually played one with that. But that would be very nice. I'm sure it exists already, so I don't have to make it myself. But that'd be one of the first mods I download. Do you feel bad for Star Trek fans because their franchise has sort of been forgotten now that Star Wars is back to kick ass? I don't. That new Star Trek movie looks like ass. I thought the first two I haven't seen the second one. I've seen part of the first one. I got to the point where Kirk is in the bar and has the stuff, like the Kleenex shoved up his nose when he's talking to Uhura because he gets punched out. That's not Star Trek. I think Abrams wanted to make a Star Wars movie when he made his first Star Trek film. And since he later went on to do Star Wars, I think that's probably what happened. Those first two Star Trek movies are not Star Trek. Star Trek is not in a mass appeal popcorn crap that they served us up in those two movies. So Star Trek died a long time ago, and so I have no sympathy for Star Trek fans. If you like the first two but you think the third one looks bad, I question whether you're an actual Star Trek fan or not, and I spit on you if you maintain that you are. The original series, DS9, and the Next Generation. That's really all that I need. That's pretty much that's it for me. Our Marvel Universe movies burning out. When I saw Civil War, I liked it quite a bit. I thought Avengers 2 was pretty good. I think once they wrap up the Thanos and Infinity Gauntlet storylines, they probably ought to give all those heroes a break and just kind of focus on the lesser known ones. Like Black Panther, maybe a solo Widow, Hawkeye film. They could do that together. I like what they've done so far. I kind of went into those with somewhat lowered expectations, I guess you could say. I knew going in there was going to be a lot of bad comedy that wasn't really up my alley, that's suitable for the kid audience, which is always going to be substantial for a movie like that. But I think they're doing pretty good. Are they making too many? Well, I don't know, maybe. But I'm enjoying them. But it's going to get to a boiling point soon. And I think once Thanos has been defeated, the Avengers and those characters, we should probably take a break from them and just focus on the lesser known characters and characters we haven't seen yet, like Doctor Strange, Black Panther, maybe a few others that we have not seen yet. Would you rather watch a 20-minute Stephanie McMahon promo or a 20-minute Brother Nero Matt Hardy sketch? Well, I'm a fan of train wreck writing and acting and presentation. The worst of the worst. I get a lot of enjoyment out of that. Stephanie, on the other hand, is just grating to me all the time. So I would rather watch 20 minutes of Matt Hardy insanity over Stephanie McMahon any day. I could watch hours of Brother Nero nonsense. Did The Simpsons peak with seasons 3 through 5? Well, I don't know if I would stop it at 5. It certainly began its peak at season 3. I think, what I would consider the golden age overall would be seasons 3 through 9. But, the absolute best of the best, where every season is a classic, every episode of every season is a classic, maybe seasons 3 through 6, maybe. You got to at least count the season that had the Stonecutter episode in it, I think. That's one of the best. If I had 24 hours to live, that'd probably be the first episode I watched in that period of time. What's a guy got to do to get some service around here? Well, maybe you should just be nicer. That's what I try to do. I always be nice to the hostesses. I don't really try to do the ass slapping anymore, or the dropping my phone and making her pick it up so I can stare at the cleavage. I picked that up from the Al Bundy episode where they were living in the supermarket and he kept doing it with that one girl in the pink. It was a good episode. A lot of things you can learn from that show also. Do you think I'm pretty? Yes, I do. I think you're a handsome man. Maybe not the handsomest guy on the board, but you're certainly up there. Barbara asks, favorite snack food? Cadbury cream eggs. It's just a shame they don't make those year-round. Of course, if they did, I'd be even heavier and lazier and more slothful than I am now, which I already am all of those things considerably. Did you vote for me in a Net Peas Crap Slam questionnaire? No, I didn't, but that was only because, the best category for you was not listed on there. There will be another one of those, and, I'd like to vote for you in the next one. Isn't this your third? We've been over that already. If you made a porno, which adult actress would star in it, and what positions would you be doing in it? Well, I don't know if I would actually act in it myself. I don't know that I'd really want to have to subject anybody to seeing that. I would probably go with Brandy Taylor as a flannel shirt, wearing a flannel shirt tied at the waist, kind of girl, showing off some cleavage in a nice summer camp setting, and maybe we would, be having sex in a canoe, doing all the canoe-related positions possible. Maybe work the paddle in there somewhere, and then, finish it off with her on top, and then maybe she gets, as we get to shore, she gets, just a nice little throat cut or a disemboweling, stab in the gut with a machete, and then Jason, remembering the rage he felt upon drowning himself as a child, he dunks my head in the lake and drowns me. Maybe even raises my head up where I gasp for breath a few times before I finally succumb. I think that'd be pretty hot. Bang, Brandy Taylor, and then be killed by Jason. I think that'd be a nice little porn setup. In the porn universe, I imagine Jason would probably be played by Evan Stone, the big muscular guy. He does the hardcore stuff and all the softcore Cinemax stuff. You've probably seen him. I imagine that's who they would cast as Jason in a porn version. I'm not saying that'd be bad casting either, but the obvious choice, sometimes that's the best. Will you take off your mask, assuming you're wearing one this time? No, not going to do that. I might take off my hat at the end of this, the Suburban Commando hat, but not the mask. Well, the men here got naked. Which ones would have the biggest and smallest cocks? Why did you pick the barber as smallest? Well, I've always imagined Hagson as being a very girthy man, probably not unlike Billy Glide, who he actually died recently. I was kind of sad to hear that. He was very enthusiastic performer, always gave it his best, he was a very thick guy down there. He passed away recently. I see Hagthin as probably being the thickest. Shemi, I've heard tales that, even Flaccid, that, his resembles the Witch King of Angmar's flail that he had in the Return of the King movie. Remember that giant, preposterously large flail? Yeah, I've heard that's what Shemi is like. Smallest, I don't know. The barber does come to mind. Probably myself comes to mind. I don't know. Hopefully, it belongs to the person who has the least amount of interest in sex. There's nothing sadder than having an enormous wang, as Kurt Vonnegut would call them, but not being able to ever actually get a chance to make the most of it or use it. That would kind of just be a sad thing. If you could go back in time and rebook a WWE main event, what event would you change? I'd probably change any Royal Rumble where Triple H is in there almost from the beginning and lasts almost until the end. Him always being dominant, that pisses me and just about everybody else off. But I'd probably change that because I'm not can't really think of anything off the top of my head that I'm more of a casual watcher of that anymore. I watch mostly old stuff, so the actual booking behind it doesn't really factor in to a lot of my watching. But I have a lot of rumbles, and his constant dominance does piss me off. Spicer asks, given that Smapty, I don't know how you say that name, but given that the guy with the Sheamus avatar has a soul, if he looks into a mirror, does he take his own soul? Probably not. I think his devotion to Sheamus, probably like a master Scientologist, he probably no longer has to obey the laws of mortal men that we do. So probably no. If it would normally apply to us, it probably doesn't apply to him, would be my answer. Cannibal Holocaust or I Spit on Your Grave. I saw Spit once. I'll never watch it again. It disgusted me, and I'm not easily disgusted. Never seen Cannibal Holocaust. Is that the one with the real life animal killing on camera? Probably not ever going to seek that out either. But Spit I found to be pretty vile. I never want to watch it again. Why everybody be stealing my ideas? Well, you got to get your ideas out there as soon as you think of them. When I was in elementary school, I conceived of the Bride of Chucky film, giving Chucky a kid sister, friend, partner in crime. Years later, they actually made it. Terrorists taking over the White House. That was my idea long before Olympus Has Fallen was ever made. And then one day I'm sitting in the theater, and I see a trailer for it, and I realize, probably should have turned that into a screenplay. Soft rope on the peck. Sure, come on over. I'm here all night. Annette asks, will you ever answer your questions? And then question 2, see above. I gotta be honest with you, I don't care for the tone of these questions. That kind of implies that she expects me not to answer them. Now, I always answer questions that are asked of me. You pose a question, I will answer it. You might not like the answer. It might frighten you, the answer. It may scare you. But I will always answer the question and follow them up. I'm not hexing. It doesn't take me a disproportionate amount of time to answer the questions. You ask me a question, I will answer. And I will answer truthfully. It's probably not something you want to hear, though. Kind of stuff. Of the classic RPG archetypes, fighter, mage, thief, cleric, who do you think suits you best? Universally, I play fighters. Whenever I play Dark Souls, I play a melee-oriented fighter all the time. I don't even really use bows unless I absolutely have to. I always play the big, strong tank-type characters. I don't know that really would apply to me in real life. I'd probably be more like a mage, a behind-the-scenes guy who rarely shows himself unless he's has to do it, working behind the scenes in the shadows. Dirty tactics. I don't have a lot of physical strength myself, I don't think, or combat ability, so, I'd kind of be a dirty fighter, but probably still have a little bit of honor. I don't know that I'd fight dirty unless, when you're having a duel against another mage, though, it really just kind of is all dirty fighting, I guess. But in games, fighter. In real life, probably more of a mage. I'm more of a book guy than a brain guy, and a book over brawn guy in real life. Where does your car keys always end up when you lose them? Usually in my car, and I have to jimmy it open, or because I can't even do that, I gotta call a cop, and he looks at me like I'm a total wuss because I can't get my own keys out of my car. What were the first pair of breasts you saw that made you realize how great they were? I know the answer to that question. I was 12 years old, not quite 13, I believe, and I was watching an episode of Married with Children where the gang goes to the jiggly room on A-Cup night to show their wives, that they behave themselves and they actually behave respectably in the jiggly room. They don't get all out of control, crazy drunk like the wives think they do. But a stripper named Rocky Mountains, played by adult film star Lethal Weapons, comes out because she's actually going to be marrying the club owner the next night and won't be there on her usual day. And she had gigantic breasts. They were implants, but certainly the biggest I'd ever seen at that point. And when I saw her come out and do her little dance, naturally it was a show on network television Fox, back in the 90s, but we didn't see everything. But I remember seeing her and just kind of being completely in awe, that they could get that big. And, if I didn't know before, I knew then that would become a lifelong obsession with me. Check that episode out. It's funny. In addition to, the breasts. That is certainly, if I were ever recounting to a hero I was about to kill, that would be recounted in my origin story, I think, that tale. Hug, he asks also. Sure, right after Spicer has had his due, I guess. Hagson asks, am I ever gonna get around to doing my own stupid second crapshoot? Well, I guess you just have to get drunk enough, Hag. You can come over here. I got the whole setup already. You can just do it at my house. I'll be here. I got nothing to do. Not a thing. But you should do it. I think we're all looking forward to you answering those questions. You were one of, if not the most valuable poster then. So we're all waiting patiently for it. You haven't quite given us a George R. R. Martin delay yet. So don't rush it. But we are waiting. Who do you absolutely loathe the most in the world, and why? I guess that answer would have to be myself. The worst qualities of myself. The fact that I'm unable to forgive myself for some things that happened in the past. Just unable to let go of some of those things. Carrying that with me and letting it affect the future. Holding myself to almost impossible to reach standards at times. That's a bad quality I have. The negative qualities that I have in my own mind, kind of like, remember Superman 3, probably the only good scenes, maybe the only good scene, good Superman battling evil Superman for control of, Superman's mind. I guess it would be that kind of struggle there. Sex, question mark. Sure, once Spicer and Fan have had their due, you can come over and we can do whatever you want. It doesn't really make much difference to me. Probably not ever going to get it from women anyway without paying for it. So, if you're offering free, yeah. I'm not going to pay you for it. You're the one asking. Looks like that's it. Alright, I took off my hat. Goodbye.